One Piece Chapter 1072 was a banger. This video will contain spoilers. If you would like to not be spoiled, please just go read it and come back. Either way, we did some deep diving and I got a bunch of theories for you guys, some foreshadowing, some crazy connections. I suggest you strap in, right? Because Oda has been cooking a bunch of stuff for a minute and we didn't see it before and we see a bit of it now, but even then it's still a bunch of things that we still don't understand. Let's just try to break down some of what's going on. I guess the most jarring thing is the fact that Stussy is a clone. Clones aren't new. It's just jarring because it's somebody that's known and named, but we found out about clones in Whole Cake Island. Went back and looked at some of the cloning dialogue, and so let me just refresh you guys a little bit. All right, so Sanji's in Whole Cake Island. Yanji leads him to the basement and he shows him the German 66 soldiers. That's when Yanji reveals to Sanji that humans can be built. And that's basically, for generations, they've been a nation of science, and specifically has been built upon bloodline elements and, well, lineage factors, and that Judge found out the blueprint of life. Something that's highlighted specifically over and over again is that a lot of the clones do not know that they are clones. And of course, for each clone, you can build them however you want to. We see with the Seraphim, they have the mix of Lunarian DNA. Cloning has been a thing. Now, let's move on a bit further to Mizbakin. So going back to everything that's going on with them, Mizbakin and Weevil, knowing now that she was cloned, we go back to chapter 1071 really quickly, and the cover story, we see a woman standing there. Now, is this Mizbakin or is this Stussy, the clone? Stussy did say before that she hadn't been to Egghead in a long time. That explains why she knew so much about Egghead. However, we're not sure if this is Mizbakin, so it's hard to say. Now, for Mizbakin and Weevil, upon their introduction, Kizaru, of course, he's talking about Edward Weevil, a warlord, and they're reporting that the Aero pirates, one of the allied pirates, they've been wiped out by Weevil, by himself. And they reported this is the 16th allied captain that was wiped out by Weevil. But the real important thing here that they talk about is a claim that Weevil makes that he's the actual son of Whitebeard. Kizaru doesn't care about it. It don't matter to them because his power is valuable to them. The words used here, very important, because it says it doesn't matter what bloodline he's from. He possesses one very significant source of value to us. Keep that in mind. So just like the real Whitebeard in his youth, at least in terms of strength. Now, as we go on, we meet Weevil. We saw silhouettes of him. We finally meet him in chapter 802. And then we see Mizbakin. Weevil is a self-styled Whitebeard Jr. She's a self-styled Whitebeard's lover. She says, the only son with the blood of Whitebeard, the strongest pirate in the world, is you. There's so many factors and things that I think about now with context of cloning and lineage factors and bloodline elements, well, same thing, but also just green blood. Weevil does not have the same things the Seraphim have, right? Where they have the canister on their arm, but Weevil looks like an experiment, a created player, I call him, okay? With no badges. Well, maybe a strength badge, but at this point, we have to actually assume that he is an experiment as well. Now, there's a theory going around, and shout out to my guys when I was live reacting. They put it in the chat, and basically they're insinuating that Weevil could have been Whitebeard and Mizbakin's real son that died. That's why he had all the stitches on him. But Mizbakin, she took him to Dr. Hogback to get him back like Frankenstein. Now, you're probably asking, what the fuck does Dr. Hogback have to do in any of this? Well, Dr. Hogback, he deals with zombies, but back then when he was a doctor, he said he was a very famous surgeon that saved a lot of lives. Now, in the recent chapter, Vegapunk talked about a specific scientist from the West Blue that explained to him the weight that a person lost after death, which basically was saying that could be the weight of their soul. I'll talk about that a bit more when we talk about Kuma's Devil Fruit, because that's not thrown in there for no reason. Either way, if we can postulate, right, that Dr. Hogback is the scientist that was spoken to from the West Blue, and he was just enthralled with zombies. He's trying to bring back his lover via zombie. I'm sure if he had this cloning technology, he'd probably do the same thing. If Mizbakin went to him to try to figure out a way to bring back Weevil and did so, and somehow they tried to infuse the bloodline elements of Whitebeard, and so Weevil could actually have the blood of Whitebeard running through his veins. And if Mizbakin was an actual experiment and willing participant of being cloned, then she would know the effects of actually cloning a person, and Weevil could be a situation where things just went all the way wrong. Either way, I do think there's some truth to what Mizbakin is saying. Obviously, it's not exactly like she's portraying where Whitebeard is the actual father of Weevil. There's some other things going on here. It could just be tricking Weevil, no relation whatsoever, but Kizaru did say he has the strength of a young Whitebeard. So if we can use that information and go back to the Seraphim and how they were damn near as strong as the original warlords as children, one, it's not really a crazy jump to say Weevil is a failed clone of Whitebeard. Now, something else we have to address. Of course, we got to talk about the clone fruit. And the clone fruit, now the person who has it is Bon Clay. For anime onlys, yes, Bon Clay is still alive. But back in the day, the person who had it was Kurozumi Higurashi, the old hag. Kurozumi Higurashi in isolation does not matter in the grand scheme of things. But when you think about or go back to the things she does, Oda has been telling us for a while what's going on here. There's no way we could have caught this. Do you guys remember back in Wano when Higurashi was talking to Orochi, and she was trying to conspire exactly how they were going to get back at Oden, get back at Sukiyaki, and she showed him how her devil fruit worked. She said, look at my face, and she transformed to someone. Do you guys remember who that person was? No one knew. We did not have any idea. Now, with some context, Higurashi having the clone fruit, looking at the person that Higurashi transformed to, it is Stussy or Bakken. The reason why this makes a lot of sense is, well, right after that, she transformed into Shiki. So it's Oda's cheeky way of saying this person, Stussy, or Bakken, is a clone because I'm transforming into her using the clone fruit. And then I'm gonna transform into Shiki for good measure because they're both connected to the Rocks Pirates. I'm not gonna say Shiki was cloned as well. However, Higurashi, she had access to these people because they were part of the Rocks Pirates, which again confirms Ms. Bakken and her affiliation with the Rocks Pirates, even though Oda just said she's a member of the Rocks Pirates. Yeah, this is insane, okay? So we can dig even deeper because if we go back to Stussy's somewhat introduction in Whole Cake Island. Now, this is the most useful thing Smoothie has done in her entire career on camera, on screen, right? On panel, is that she was making actual smoothies for the guests. Do you guys know what smoothie she made for Stussy? Yes, she squeezed an actual giraffe and Smoothie drank it with no problem, okay? What the actual hell, Oda? What are you doing? He was cooking for a while, considering that we found out about cloning in Whole Cake Island, and also Stussy was introduced in Whole Cake Island. I think things are starting to line up really well, don't you think? Now, this puzzle, these connections, it's honestly just insanity. Because even after Dr. Hogback and them, they left Thriller Bark, they were having a conversation and they were talking about Blackbeard. Dr. Hogback specifically, he was praising what Blackbeard was doing, saying, man, he's done some nasty stuff, talking about Ace being imprisoned. And it's so funny that Absalom was killed and his devil fruit was taken, but I believe Dr. Hogback is still alive. Now, in regards to cloning and how deep it runs, we're not gonna go too crazy. I'm not gonna say Zoro's a clone of Ryuma, even though they saw him using two sword style. They were like, yo, how? DNA for Ryuma, that's not that hard to come by because we know them guys had it. But it's safe to assume that a lot of people that are currently walking around in the world could be clones. And again, an important part of a clone is them not actually knowing they are clones. Now, there's also Bonnie here, where at the beginning of the chapter, it somewhat insinuates at the end, okay, obviously he's talking about Stussy, but at the beginning we had no context, like what are they talking about? Reading the chapter, after I read that part and I saw Bonnie, I immediately forgot about that first part. I was like, okay, sure. So now thinking about it, could Bonnie be a clone that Kuma was trying to protect? And so Bonnie might find out that she's an actual clone once she goes and experiences Kuma's memories? Could that happen? Because it's not that insane that Bonnie's a clone. I don't think, at this point, anybody being a clone is not crazy. Again, Bonnie can transform into the Queen Dowager Connie. We don't know where she came from, her origins. These things are actually plausible. But either way, Oda has been cooking this for a long time. I'm starting to have a lot more grace in regards to Wano, considering just how important the Rocks Pirates are to the story. The Rocks Pirates seem to be ground zero. God Valley seems to be ground zero in regards to how important it is for the future of the story, considering Roger, Garp, the former Rocks Pirates, and just how deep it runs, considering who all were members of the Rocks Pirates. Now, the more people they talk about that were a member of Rocks, I start to wonder, Rocks had to be not only a phenomenal person and leader for that many people to follow him and chase their own dreams. Do you guys understand how grandiose it's going to be once we find out the true story of Rocks and the true meaning behind everything? If cloning is going all the way back to Stussy, who is implied to be very old, not gonna say Blackbeard was a clone, not gonna say Shanks was a clone, but now I'm questioning everything. With Dragon and his affiliations with Vegapunk, I'm looking at Luffy like, you a lot like Roger and the Joy Boys and stuff. right? Okay, I'm not saying Luffy's a clone. Like that's crazy, right? That's insanity. But you know what else was insane? Assuming Luffy did not have a paramnesia double for that. Okay. Let me calm down. Let me calm down, because before next chapter, you're gonna see a lot of cloning allegations, okay? And some of them may be valid. We just don't know yet. But Oda has opened up a can of worms, and I've been seeing people somewhat perturbed and saying, "Yo, what, Oda cloning? That's what we found out about cloning in Whole Cake Island, my G. We said the same thing about time travel, and yeah, much ado about nothing. Oda handled it very, very well. And at this point, I don't see any issue with cloning. I don't see it going too far. I don't think Roger pulls up. Well, let me slow down. Either way, I'm gonna do some more research, do some more digging, because I'm just so fascinated by just how many context clues Oda leaves out there. And there's no way you can't tell me that the giraffe stuff with Stissy, Higurashi, and Wano, there's obvious foreshadowing there, right? Like sometimes we reach like Monkey D. Luffy levels of reach in regards to foreshadowing, because you know, you guys like those things. But this one, nah. Oda knew what he was doing. He was cooking, boy. He was cooking. But guys, give me your thoughts. What do you feel about cloning? What are your theories? Drop them all below. I want to see them. But now I think it's actually a valid question. Is Kid actually a clone of Shanks?
Okay, I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.